Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today I'm talking about Ghostbusters Remastered on the Nintendo Switch. This was originally, I want to say, around 2009, 2010, so what would that be? I think would that be 360 or PS3? I believe so. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of Ghostbusters. I was born a little bit after its time, but just from my perspective, it seems like once you're a Ghostbusters fan, you are a big Ghostbusters fan. People who enjoy this series kind of self-identify with it. Like they identify themselves as a Ghostbuster fan, which there's nothing wrong with that. I identify myself with being a fan of a lot of things, but it just seems like I don't really grasp it the same way that people who grew up in the 1980s grasp it. I feel like this game is the ultimate fan service for those kind of Ghostbusters fans. It has most of the original voice cast, which is really impressive. I'm a big fan of Bill Murray in particular, and he sure is Bill Murray in this game. You don't play as any of the original Ghostbusters, however. You are a new character that joins the Ghostbusters team. You're kind of this rookie is what they always call you. They never refer to you by name, and I think it's because you're meant to kind of like place yourself as that avatar, and it's just like you yourself are a part of the Ghostbusters team, so they always just refer you as young blood or rookie, or you know, that you're just like this generic white middle-aged guy. I just think it's a little silly. I think I would have much rather preferred to be playing as one of the original Ghostbusters, like have me cycle through playing between them all. I still don't have all of their names off the top of my head, though. I just know their voice actors. It's not that big of a deal, though. Maybe they just wanted you to be yourself. Like, think of yourself as a part of the crew with the original team. So you're the newest recruit, and it starts you off playing, I think the first level is in one of the hotels, and you're trying to hunt down the green Slimer, very much like the first Ghostbusters movie. Forgot to mention this earlier, but I've only seen the first movie. I haven't seen the other sequels or any TV shows, nothing like that. Most of my Ghostbusters exposure comes from the first movie and hearing the theme song whenever I go to a Halloween party. So forgive me for my Ghostbuster knowledge not being that great, but the first level here, you are in that hotel with the green Slimer. He's like the iconic ghost for Ghostbusters, so you're hunting him down, and it kind of just eases you into the gameplay here. I felt like the tutorial could have been a bit more clear, just for me personally, because your teammates will try to yell instructions at you while you're in the middle of combat. And I had trouble kind of hearing what they were trying to tell me what to do while things are flying all over the place and tables are being flipped over and ghosts are screaming at you and stuff like that. I just felt like maybe a quick little tutorial separate and then get me into the action would have helped me understand a little bit better how to play this game. But that might just be like a personal complaint, because a lot of people probably just prefer to jump right into the action. If I was to describe the gameplay of this game, I would say it's a mix between Gears of War, Luigi's Mansion, and Dead Space. They take a lot of mechanics from these games and kind of merge them all together. Basically, each ghost has like this hit point pool, essentially. And so you are shooting your atomic phaser laser beam at the ghost as you're watching their health dwindle down, and when it gets low enough, you have to throw down one of their traps, and you have to drag these ghosts down into the trap to capture them, essentially. And that's where the Luigi's Mansion kind of takes place. You can even slam them into the walls to lower their HP pool, much like Luigi's Mansion 3. And so it is a unique mechanic, and it is very fitting of Ghostbusters. I had a little trouble with the aiming with my laser beam, but once I turned on the aim assist, it was a lot more manageable for me. Now, Ghostbusters fans, what is the biggest rule when you are firing your photon lasers with other people? don't cross the streams. And when you are in a smaller area with 4 other Ghostbusters, it becomes very easy to cross the streams. It will hurt you if you do that. So I do feel like the playing fields here, when you have all 4 Ghostbusters with you at one time, it can seem a little crowded. Like, there is friendly fire here, don't cross the beams, you start bumping into each other. It does get a little cramped. Now, you aren't usually with all 4 Ghostbusters at once. Usually you're only with 1 or 2 different ones at a time, so this isn't that big of a deal. But during those certain sections, it does get a little, you are rubbing your shoulders with everybody else, and they will criticize you if you do cross the streams. Now, as you are firing your laser, this special backpack, this is where the Dead Space mechanics come into play, because if you've ever played Dead Space, your HUD, your heads-up display, is pretty much all displayed on the back of your suit, and I felt like Ghostbusters took a lot of inspiration from that, where you read the meters on your backpack to give yourself certain information, like it'll say on your back how much health you have. It will have this little meter that starts filling up as you are firing up your lasers, and this will kind of work as your reload system, because you have to vent out your backpack in order for it to cool down. So if you are firing your laser and you aren't paying attention to that meter, it can overheat, and then you aren't able to do any kind of action for a little bit until your backpack does cool down on its own. So that's a meter you have to keep track of in order to vent it when it gets near to the top of overheating. You also have a PKE meter. If you've ever seen the first Ghostbusters movie, this is where they kind of detect where paranormal phenomenon is around, and this is where you can kind of see where points of interest are while you're playing the game, this little PKE meter. So once you have this up, the meter will start going more and more crazy the closer you get towards objects of interest. Now, this is where the collectible aspect comes into play, because you will find haunted objects throughout each level, and these will give you currency. We'll go more into that in just a second. So you're hunting down these haunted objects that are around. So you can also use this to hunt down where nearby ghosts may be, sometimes they like to hide into objects, and you can use this PKE meter to see which object they're hiding in. Now, while you have this PKE meter up, you can also scan objects, and this will award you with more money. So if you encounter a new ghost that you've never seen before, this is kind of like a Pokemon Snap kind of thing, where you have to hurry and take their picture. If they're in the center of the PKE meter, then it gets logged into the book, so you can pull up your menus and you can read more about this ghost later if you'd like to. The writing in this was actually pretty fun, and if you are a big fan of Ghostbusters, go through and look at the writing of just descriptions about all of these different ghosts. It's just an additional fun thing to shoot for, and it's nice incentive to get additional money for this as well. So when you don't have your PKE meter up, you can see it kind of, it's hooked to your backpack, and you can see when it starts going off that there are paranormal points of interest nearby, so pull that meter up. Now, there are different attachments for your backpack, and these attachments kind of work like guns in a regular third-person shooter. So obviously your first attachment is your laser beam that you use to drag around ghosts, drag them into your traps. But each of these attachments also has a secondary fire as well. So the secondary fire for this nozzle attachment is just like this big old blast that will do a lot of damage to the ghost's health pool. But there are 3 other attachments, and these are all assigned to the directional buttons on the D-pad. So you have like a shotgun spray, you have one that freezes enemies, you have one that's kind of like a machine gun. There's like the slime blast in order to reveal hidden walls and clean up the black slime. And then it also has this tether where you can pull 2 objects together. So there's a lot of variety here. It's not just a straight up point and shoot your laser until you dwindle them down and get them in a trap. There's a lot of different options, and you are going to be using a variety of these attachments for different enemies. So if you encounter encounter like mobs of these weaker ghosts, then you might want to use your shotgun attachment. Or if you encounter a boss with a weak point in it, you might want to start hitting that with your machine guns. I actually did appreciate the variety here on top of trying to scan all of these different ghosts. Now, I mentioned money just a second ago, and you can use this money to upgrade all of these different attachments. I do feel, however, that I had plenty of money to spare, especially at the end of the game. If you're hunting down all of these hidden items and scanning all these ghosts, you will be maxed out in all of your upgrades in no time, and you will be playing most of the game without needing to upgrade any of these because you're already maxed out. However, during the first half of the game, it will constantly remind you if you have enough money to buy an upgrade, and it is a little annoying because it's always there. And what if you are saving up money for a stronger upgrade? You don't want to upgrade one of the lesser things, especially for an attachment that you never really seem to use. It's just always there, and I wish that it would just maybe remind you every once in a while, but just not always be on your screen, especially if they were going for this whole minimalistic HUD approach where it was all displayed on your backpack. It seems a little backwards to always have that reminder that, hey, you have enough money to upgrade. Just a little minor complaint here, though. Another reason why I said this is kind of like Gears of War is two mechanics. One, you can, when your health pool is depleted, you get down on the ground, and you need one of your Ghostbuster teammates to help you up. Now, this also works the other way around, where you will be often, very, very often, incentivized to help your fallen teammates up, and I felt like the AI, as far as your teammates goes, it worked okay for the most part, but during bosses where there are certain areas that you don't want to stand around or you will get hit with significant damage, your teammates will just stand there. So, especially near the end of the game when I was fighting end-level bosses, I felt like half the time I'm just helping up my teammates because they keep falling down, and you want them to be up because you want them to be able to help you when you fall down, because if your whole team has fallen down, then you just have to revert back to a checkpoint. So very Gears of War like that, and then it's also very Gears of War with the running mechanic. You hold down A, and you are just running straight forward. You can't do any action or anything like that. You can just only sway slightly to the left or the right. You know, as far as the game goes, it's actually pretty challenging, and you actually do have to think on your feet and use the right backpack attachments for the correct corresponding enemies, and you can't just mindlessly fire at bosses either. They all have like their own little technique that you have to do. Like, one has portals all around you, and you kind of need to kite around the big baddie by using these portals. Otherwise, like one slam and you're down off your feet. Speaking of getting downed off your feet, though, this is one of my other complaints about this game. You are getting knocked down quite a lot. And I'm not just talking about when your health pool is depleted and you need one of your teammates to help you up. It is just this animation where you are knocked off your feet and you have to climb back up before you can start shooting again. And it takes about 5 seconds. And that doesn't sound like a big deal until you realize that unless you are paying attention to all of your surroundings, even behind you, you're going to get hit with these attacks that knock you off your feet, and you have to watch the same 5-second animation over and over again. It's not unusual for it to happen at least 6 or 7 times during an enemy encounter that you are just knocked off your feet and you watch this animation. So on top of getting knocked off my feet and trying to help up all my teammates, it just felt like it was very distracting and broke up the flow of the combat that I otherwise actually really do enjoy. You can definitely tell that they didn't phone this in and just make some cash grab game. You can tell that they put a lot of work, and the developers of this game have a lot of fondness for the series, and they actually do really enjoy Ghostbusters. Even the writing itself I thought was very funny, very witty. Like I said earlier, I'm not that big of a fan of Ghostbusters, but playing through this game actually did make me enjoy all of the characters, all of the Ghostbusters themselves. They all have this kind of wit to them, and they have this banter, and it helps break up kind of the spookiness of the ghosts. It actually really gave me an understanding of why Ghostbusters works for so many people, especially if you grew up in the 80s. And Ghostbusters is just this nice juxtaposition of spooky, scary horror parts, which there are a lot in this game. Actually, a lot of the times you're like separated from the team and you have to go around by yourself, and there's a lot of like jump scares, like legitimately. It's not just comedy in this series as well. It actually has a lot of spookiness to bring to the table, which is nice for this time of year. And but it's not so much because it breaks it up with this kind of humor, this banter between the different Ghostbusters. I'm actually really impressed with this game, and I want to go as far to say, if you are a Ghostbusters fan, this is probably the best Ghostbusters game that there ever will be. Now, I've never played any other Ghostbusters game, so I don't think that's much of a important claim for someone like me to make, but it just feels like there was a lot of heart and soul put into this game, and it was made strictly for Ghostbusters fans. I did encounter some bugs in this game, and it did kind of show its age. At this point, it's about 10 years old. I know this was the remastered version, so I'm not sure how much they changed as far as the remaster goes. But visually, this does look like an Xbox 360 game, and some bugs would happen, like my teammates wouldn't help me up, or the next event wouldn't trigger until I had to reboot from the last checkpoint, and then the event would trigger. Sometimes the voice acting itself, while very good, it would get kind of glitchy, like I was listening to two different audio tracks of the same audio, so it sounded pretty echoey, if that makes any sense. It's just a little dated as far as the visuals go, and as far as the gameplay goes, it does feel like a game from a decade ago. Other than that, though, I didn't have any hard crashes on my Switch, or nothing too game-breaking here, aside from the events not triggering, like I mentioned earlier. It's a nice, good length, too, for like a single-player game. It's about 9 or 10 hours, at least that's how long it took me, and I got most of the collectibles because nothing was too hidden or out of the ordinary. I tried to take pictures of all the ghosts, get all the collectibles, and I want to say I had about 80% of the game completed at the end. It doesn't tell you, this is just a rough estimate. It's a very solid game. It's good. They just seem to take a lot of good game ideas from other games and piece them together and make it for the Ghostbusters fan base. So that's why I think if you like Ghostbusters, you will really, really enjoy this game. I think it's even canonical at this point. I've heard that somewhere. I'm not sure where, but for me personally, not the biggest Ghostbusters fan, but this was probably the Ghostbusters thing that I enjoyed the most, comparing it to the first movie at least. I think I will give this game a 3 out of 5, just because, there are those frustrating moments too. It is solid. That's the word I would use to describe it. Well, guys, that's it for me. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about Ghostbusters or Ghostbusters Remastered, the video game. Let me know why you love the series, and just tell me all about it. Sell me on the Ghostbusters, even though this game kind of already did it. Tell me why it means so much to you. That's it for me, though. I'll talk to you later. Bye!